Okay, you can start.
Good evening. I call to order this regular joint meeting of the Minnehaha County and Sioux Falls Planning Commissions, and I will begin with a few introductory comments. I'm Bonnie Duffy. I am the chair for the Minnehaha County Planning Commission, and Larry Lutke is here for the Sioux Falls Planning Commission as chairman. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones are turned off. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on the www.minnehahacounty.org site for viewing by the general public. The two planning commissions work together on land use and zoning matters within the rural area surrounding the city. This area is displayed on the screen. When this joint hearing is completed, the joint Sioux Falls and County Planning Commission will adjourn, and the next regular business meeting will begin to consider items beyond the joint zoning jurisdiction with Sioux Falls. Any final action taken on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, July 1st at 5 p.m. In the event of the appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission and City Council for a joint hearing on Tuesday, July 23rd at or after 5 p.m. That meeting is held in Carnegie Town Hall at 235 West 10th Street. Any action taken on the final development plan will be final tonight. First on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to any item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider this consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all of the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or the staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from the May 20th meeting are included in the consent agenda. Does any Planning Commission member wish to have any item removed for discussion? Next, I will read each item of the consent agenda, and if there's anyone here that wants those items removed, they need to voice their opinion at that time, and they will be moved to the regular agenda. The first item on the consent agenda is the approval of the minutes of May 20th. Item number 2 is continual use permit 19-31 to stable for personal use only in the property legally described as Tract 3, Plooster's Addition in Government Lot 2 in the Southwest Quarter, Section 30, Township 101 North, Range 50 West. The petitioner is Jared Smart, property owner is Nick Haug, and that is located 3 miles west of Sioux Falls. The next item is the final development plan. Petitioner is Tyler Shildrest. He's also the property owner. That is located 1 mile north of Sioux Falls. Okay, those are the items on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda of those 3 items?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
Move for approval.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes on the city side.
Thank you. If your item has been approved, you are free to go. The regular agenda is the final development plan 19-04. Kevin, you want to give a report on that, please?
Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department. Final Development Plan number 1904. Staff is requesting deferral on this item due to some questions about how the future of the land will be platted and working with the city on that platting options. So if this is public still, so if anybody wants to speak to the item, they should be allowed, but otherwise that's where our recommendation is. Continue to the next meeting, yes.
When is the next meeting?
July 22nd.
Any other questions for Kevin? Anyone else out there in the audience that wishes to speak of this item? Otherwise, it will be deferred if it's approved to be deferred tonight. Yeah, is the petitioner here? Will you please come forward, state your name and address, please?
Brent Driscoll, 48068 Iverson Crossing Road, Brandon. This permit is to put in a business on commercial property. The lands, as noted, has, in the report, has already been zoned for commercial. We have a pending ruling that will go in tomorrow night for the actual major amendment to the zoning for warehousing and also wholesaling, because that was not listed in the initial commercial description for the land. You voted on it our last meeting and it was approved, okay? One thing I do want to kind of note is it's been great working with Kevin and others at the county to work through some of this process, but I have discovered that the process is really flawed in how this all gets worked out. There's a lot of information that isn't readily available to someone like myself. Obviously, I do ask for help, but now that there's a joint process going on between the city and the county, there seems to be a gap there, and it actually adds a lot of additional time to it. I'm up against a time restriction in order to get this going, obviously. I'm trying to purchase and move a business from Minnesota to South Dakota, and I just have, if it wasn't for the people that I've been working with, it's been a deterrent. I mean, it's so hard to get stuff through and the process and get stuff discovered and find out what you actually should do and what you shouldn't do and what's allowed to be done. It's been really difficult. So if there's anything that we can take out of this, maybe, you know, the process could be shored up so that instead of having to go to each individual group that's siloed, if it was more of a joint process and it's documented that way, it'd be very helpful. I don't know if that makes sense to, you know, plead my case that way, but it definitely would, you know, speed things up, because I've been working on this for months already, and just want to get through the process now. It's just becoming such a negative experience for me.
Any questions for the petitioner?
Are you wanting to defer this until next meeting, or what's?
I would rather not. I would rather have what's the issues that are actually holding it up for deferral. I would rather have them as conditional, and once they're met, then the final would be approved based on that. I guess that was part of my question is, you know, I'm working with the individuals that actually are trying to abide by the regulations. So when you come with the final plan, it's like the one that you just approved before. You guys aren't spending a lot of time digging into the weeds on that. You're counting on their experience in order to do that, right? I would like to actually have that happen here tonight, where instead of deferring it, we actually just put conditions on it in order to meet the requirements. Because if you look at the requirements, I met the county requirements. It's the Red Rock corridor, where there has to be like a certain number of trees for every 100 feet. Well, that's really easy. I just got to put that on the plan, right? Just document it on a piece of paper. So to defer it based on that. Another one is the approval for the septic system to be approved, or to have it drawn up by an engineer and then approved by there's an environmental agency that has to sign off on it. Whether that gets deferred or not, that still has to be done. So it could be a conditional thing that you don't get your building permit until this is done. So the condition to trigger that would be that being done. And then when I come in for my permit, the group that gives me the building permit, they can say, okay, here it is, we're good to go. So in my mind, I would rather not defer it. I would rather meet the requirements, because I already have them in place. I already have the engineer. I already have the perk tests set up to be done. We unfortunately had some rain, otherwise they'd already be done. And the other stuff is pretty much cosmetic. Now, there is one thing that I want to point out that wasn't in the report, is they talk about the joint access. So imagine on the 10.5 acres, there's groups of 2 lots, and they have a shared approach that feeds the boundary between the 2 properties. So they share approach. Right now, the highway department is not comfortable with doing that, although it's a very low-traffic road. In my proposal, even if we do not get that approved, there is an approach there already that is going to have an easement for access for all of those properties. So once again, I don't want that holding up the request when we actually have a contingency, Plan B to make it work. So I guess what I'm saying is the proposal isn't 100% reliant on us getting those separate approaches for those properties, because there's already an approach there that would work adequately to service them. There would just have to be an access easement across the front of the properties. And in order for the land to actually be platted anyway, there actually has to be access granted to the person that's purchasing the land that's platted.
Mr. Chair, could I ask Albert a question?
Sure, go ahead. You come
Albert,
forward.
you submitted a report that indicated a recommendation to defer this item because of required additional approvals and reviews. Trying to forecast what that might involve could come in conflict with something we would decide tonight. So your recommendation remains deferral.
Correct. Yeah, it's difficult to, throughout the whole process here, our recommendation overall is to recommend deferral so that we can know those definitive things of getting that development in place, so we know exactly where those are going to be at, so that the landowner and the applicant can know what those are going to be when they're put in place, so that when they do go for platting, those are known items for their development.
Mr. Chair or
Go ahead.
Madam Chair?
Sure, go ahead.
If it's the city's turn, I'd make a motion that we defer this item in concert with the county's decision in that regard.
Do we have a motion on the county side? Jeff?
Madam Chair, I just want to say there are a few things that need to get worked out, right? I mean, potentially it would need a hard surface access or not.
Correct, yeah. The requirement states that because it's coming off of a hard surfaced road, that it would have to be hard surfaced access.
Right.
And that is actually already part of the plan for the easement, to actually have that, so.
It's an example, I think, where meeting more than once a month might be good, but I don't want to go to any more meetings. I'm sorry, Brent, I'm going to make a motion to defer action for 1 month.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded to defer the final development plan, 19-04. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion
Sorry. Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we defer for 1 month this item.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Deferred on the city side.
Okay, there is no old business, no new business. Need a motion to adjourn on the county side.
So moved.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Motion adjourned on city side.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.
Thank you.